It doesn't start with chaos. It starts with small decisions that feel totally reasonable, made quietly by people who think they're being careful rather than reckless. A family skips a holiday because prices feel high. A company pauses hiring because sales slowed a bit. A bank quietly says no to loans it would have approved last year. And then it happens. Almost overnight, everyone starts asking the same question. Why is everything suddenly getting worse? Because a recession isn't one disaster. It's a chain reaction. Today, I'm going to walk you through the repeatable mechanisms that cause recessions and explain why the event that appears to trigger them is almost never the real cause. By the end of this video, you'll be able to answer three things clearly. What a recession actually is, beyond the idea that the economy is bad. What forces quietly set recessions up? And why, once they begin, they tend to spread so fast. No politics, no villains, no conspiracy theories, just the mechanics, so you can recognize the pattern when it shows up again. Part 1. What a recession really is. A recession is a broad drop in economic activity that lasts long enough to matter in real life, not just on a chart. You'll often hear the phrase, 2 quarters of falling GDP. That's a useful rule of thumb, but most people don't experience recessions through statistics. They experience them through pressure. Layoffs and hiring freezes. Weaker sales and shorter working hours. Fewer new projects. Tighter credit and rising defaults. Lower confidence and less spending. The most important idea to understand is this. A recession is a feedback loop. Spending falls, businesses earn less, costs get cut, jobs and wages weaken, and that causes spending to fall even further. That loop is the recession. So the real question becomes, what starts it? If you are interested in and enjoy this kind of video, please like, share, and subscribe to the We Do All of This channel. Part 2. The first domino, demand and confidence. Most recessions begin with falling demand, not because people suddenly stop wanting things, but because they feel less secure about the future. When households worry about jobs, debt, rent, or food prices, they don't panic all at once. They postpone purchases, they switch to cheaper options, and they stop upgrading. Individually, those decisions seem small. Collectively, they matter a great deal. That's because consumer spending makes up a large share of modern economies. Small changes in behavior, spread across millions of people, add up quickly. Businesses notice the slowdown fast, and they tend to respond in predictable stages. First, they cut overtime and marketing. Then they pause hiring. Then they cancel expansion plans. And eventually, they start laying people off. That's the moment caution turns into contraction. But here's the twist. Falling demand is often a symptom, not the root cause. In many cases, it's driven by deeper pressures already in the system. Debt, credit, interest rates, asset bubbles. Part 3. Debt. The amplifier. That makes everything worse. Debt doesn't automatically cause recessions, but it turns mild slowdowns into severe downturns when conditions change. That's because debt doesn't adjust easily. Your income can fall, but your debt payments usually can't. And that mismatch forces hard decisions very quickly. In good times, borrowing feels safe. Mortgages make sense when wages are rising. Business loans feel manageable when sales are growing. Leverage looks smart when prices keep climbing. But when growth slows, even slightly, debt becomes a trap. Households cut spending to keep up with repayments. Businesses cut investment to preserve cash. Defaults begin to rise, and defaults do something that accelerates everything. They scare lenders. Banks tighten lending standards. Investors demand higher returns. Borrowing becomes harder at exactly the moment people and businesses need it most. That's how a recession spreads beyond the first sector that was hit. Debt is the amplifier. Part 4. Credit tightening. When the financial system hits the brakes. Credit is the oxygen of modern economies. When it flows, growth feels effortless. When it tightens, everything slows. Easy credit supports big purchases, business expansion, and risk-taking. Tight credit delays decisions, kills marginal businesses, and pushes unemployment higher. Credit can tighten for several reasons. Interest rates rise. Banks become nervous about defaults. Asset prices fall, reducing collateral. Financial institutions take losses and turn cautious. This is why recessions often feel sudden. The moment credit flips from easy to hard, the entire system changes behavior at once. Part 5. Booms. Set the trap. Bubbles and mispriced risk. Most recessions are preceded by booms. Not because growth is bad, but because rapid growth hides risk. Booms concentrate money into whatever is rising fastest, whether that's housing, stocks, technology, or commodities, often regardless of long-term value. Expectations replace caution. Borrowing feels safe. Capital floods into what's profitable now rather than what's sustainable. That's the trap. When conditions change, the same crowd that rushed in tries to rush out, and the reversal is always faster than the buildup. Part 6. 1929. Leverage, rate pressure, and panic mechanics. In the late 1920s, rapid growth and stock market speculation were amplified by leverage, borrowing to invest. Leverage magnifies gains when prices rise, but it magnifies losses when prices fall. When stock prices started dropping, forced selling kicked in as leveraged investors faced margin calls. At the same time, borrowing conditions tightened and confidence collapsed. The details can be debated, but the mechanism is consistent. Leverage, tightening conditions, falling prices, forced selling, and a broader downturn. The same pattern. Part 7. 2008. Housing, securitization, and contagion. In 2008, housing played a similar role. Housing booms are especially dangerous because housing connects to banks, construction, consumer confidence, and household wealth all at once. In the 2000s, mortgages were bundled, traded, and spread across the financial system. That meant losses didn't stay local when things went wrong. When house prices stopped rising, refinancing became harder. Defaults increased. Mortgage-linked assets lost value. Financial institutions took losses. Lending tightened across the economy. Layoffs followed. The system became fragile during the boom, and then it snapped when conditions changed. Part 8. Interest rates. The master dial that can trigger the snap. Interest rates act like a master dial, setting the cost of borrowing and the value of future income. Rates don't need to be high to cause damage. They only need to rise enough to expose leverage and fragility. If households are stretched, small increases hurt. If businesses are heavily leveraged, refinancing becomes dangerous. If asset prices are inflated, rate changes can deflate them quickly. Interest rates often light the match. But the fuel was already piled up. Part 9. The real recession machine, feedback loops. Once a recession begins, multiple feedback loops reinforce each other and accelerate the downturn. Falling spending leads to layoffs, which reduce spending further. Rising defaults tighten credit, which causes more defaults. Falling asset prices damage confidence, which pushes prices down even more. Bad news spreads, caution increases, and investment slows. These loops don't operate in isolation, they compound. Part 10. The pattern you should remember. So what causes a recession? Not one thing. Recessions happen when debt and leverage build up, credit becomes essential, asset prices outrun reality, and confidence turns into caution. A trigger hits, the system can't absorb it, and the feedback loops do the rest. If you remember one line, make it this. Booms create fragility. Recessions reveal it.